I don't stand side by side with nobody till I bleed with them first.
What did we just see? You probably think this world is a dream come true.
When I step into this ring, yeah, bro, I am addicted.
Don't sleep on Luca!
Maybe tomorrow we'll all wear 42.
You fight for your dreams will fight for you!
Let's get a couple things out the way real quick. Been messing with my mic settings. Sometimes it's too low, sometimes it's too high. Might end up just looking into getting a new mic. Secondly, I know it's been quite some time, and that's on me for being a bit lazy. And lastly, to get into the video. This episode's going to be a bit more like a podcast than the typical, essay-esque videos I do, properly written scripts. I always wanted my first non-sports / music video to be that way, when it comes to like covering entertainment stuff like movies, TV shows, etc., from the entertainment side. Like I always wanted it to be that way, but I just feel like life kind of hasn't permitted me the time nor the energy to do so. It's a struggle, the best way I can describe it is like having ambition but no drive, and I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but that's just the way life's been beating me up lately. But let's get into it, man. I finally got to see Superman. I know been out for quite some time, but I finally got to see it this past Sunday. Yeah, it was this past Sunday, man. So I'll never forget when James Gunn released his initial plans for the new DCU, and I was so excited about it, but also a bit weary because there was some projects where I was like, he's being a bit bold here. We can't put it past James Gunn to take obscure characters and make them noteworthy, but some of these are a bit obscure in a way, And as time went on, the expectations for this Superman movie grew, especially because it felt like this whole new plan rested on the success of Superman. Because think about it. From that initial slate, it's obviously changed a ton in recent years, but also is like as time went on, we weren't seeing much about casting, scripts, like when is filming going to start with a lot of these things. The only one that really kind of broke that mold was Creatures Commando, but everything else, it was like, you're not hearing a lot about it. You're maybe hearing that like it's being reworked. And it really, at the end of the day, it really felt like it just came down to Superman has to succeed. This whole new plan rests on the success of Superman, and they're not really committing resources to some of this stuff until they know for sure that this new universe is going to have an audience, But you all know me. I could not give a damn about numbers. From wrestling to music to other forms of media, I do not care about numbers, simply personal enjoyment. So, let's get into this movie. Again, it's going to be more podcast style. It's going to be me really going off the top of my head. I did have like a couple notes, but I didn't really prepare too much because I just want to talk about the raw emotions I had watching this movie. Because, let's put it this way. While obviously both started off similarly, like without a plan, without sort of a set vision, the MCU really found its way, found its plan, and things felt organized. Whereas for the longest time when it came to DC and its movies, it was quite the opposite. You had all these different versions, all these different, it's like you had Christian Bale's Batman trilogy, but it was never a part of a grander DCU. Then they have Man of Steel and they want to create a larger DCU, but yet we only get one Superman movie in that entirety. Batman never gets a solo movie, and things just felt like all over the place in the way they did things, and you even think to like before that where it's like it was always more solo projects, solo endeavors, and never trying to do this greater arching universe. And when they tried it, it just didn't work out, I'll be the first to say it. I don't care how much hate I get. I've never really been a fan of Zack Snyder's vision for the DC. I didn't really like the approach he took to a lot of different characters. My brother is a fan of Zack Snyder. I am not, Is a lot of that resentment from the way he handled the Watchmen movie? Maybe, obviously, I gotta put it out there. I'm just joking around with a lot of this. I mean, that's the difficult part about the internet. You can try and be playful, while still being like respectful. Like, I'm just saying, like, I didn't really like Zack Snyder. I'm not like the people online that go to war for Zack Snyder and against him, like, it's just me personally saying, like, I just didn't enjoy some of his creative decisions, so I bring all this up to basically just say, like, that's the reason why I was so excited when Gunn became the head of the new DCU, because it's like, it's very clear that they want to take this seriously now, like, for the longest time, all of DC has really been like disoriented, from video games to, I mean, the comics have kind of been good. I mean, the animated universe, that's a whole nother story, So it's like everything just felt like really disoriented, and now it really felt like they wanted a set vision, And as Gunn just talked more and more about this new DCU he wants to do, the more and more I realized how much it was in good hands, because it was someone who is in full control of the vision, because, like, I may not like Zack Snyder's vision, but you could tell, like, a lot of the stuff was confusing because it was like his vision being what's the way you want to put it, like, he didn't have total control or input, like, he was obviously trying to tell his story while also trying to appease to, like, a greater power in a way. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, like higher ups, like, it kind of felt that way. Whereas here, like, it really feels like they're putting full trust and control to Gunn, and it's really worked out. I know it's crazy to say it's worked out after one movie. My dad is saying, that, like, he's giving it time because it's just one movie. You never know. To me, the reason I think it works out is because, again, you see Gunn's vision, and this is something I felt for the entire cast of this movie, is that everyone just feels like they understand, like, Gunn really feels like he understands the characters, and he demonstrated that through his castings, because it's like, it really feels like all the people, whether it's Superman, Jimmy Olsen, Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, they just understand their characters, like, after I finished this movie, I was just like, that's Superman to me. Like, that, everything that Superman did in this movie is who Superman is, I get it. For the longest time, especially in the 2010s, there was this obsession with exploring, like, the dark side of Superman. Oh, what if Superman leaned into more of his godlike side than his human side? What if Superman was evil? How could they, combat him and all that? I get the intrigue there. It ends up spawning different, inspirations like Homelander and Omni-Man. But at the end of the day, I don't care what people say about it being boring. Superman, at the end of the day, should always be what this movie demonstrated. Someone who goes out of his way to, be helpful and kind to everyone. This Superman demonstrates the Superman that has always been, the type of hero that will save a squirrel from getting crushed by a building because he cares about every single being in Metropolis, People keep bringing it up, and it's because it's a real good scene about the fact that he cares so much about Crypto, He cares so much about Crypto feeling scared and alone. Like, that's his number one concern, is helping this person, He helps without really thinking about world implications, because he doesn't represent any country. He doesn't represent any government body. He represents the people, He represents the true kind nature of people, you know, and that's what I just really enjoyed about, you know, David Cornsweet's portrayal of this character and James Gunn's portrayal of this character, because it really nailed down who Superman is. You know, it was refreshing to see a Superman that is playful and kind and helpful. You know, it was amazing to see his own internal conflict with who he is and who he's supposed to be, who people portray him as compared to how he sees himself. You know, like, that was just amazing to see. And then everyone else was just, again, amazing portrayals of the characters that they played. Like, my dad really enjoyed Jimmy Olsen, because my dad was like, that's Jimmy Olsen. That guy understands who Jimmy Olsen is at the heart of his character, you know, like, his portrayal was amazing and hilarious. And, you know, you could just say that for so many different people. Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I think probably like the standout to me, because again, it's just a perfect demonstration. And again, he's voiced Green Lantern in the past, so it's not his first time, but like, it is just insane to me how much Nathan Fillion understood who Guy Gardner was. Like, I'll never forget, they were interviewing him, I think it was at the premiere for the movie, and he just completely nailed Guy Gardner when they asked him about Guy Gardner. And it's like, that's the thing that I'm so excited about for this new DCU, is that, again, Gunn really seems like he's being very careful of who he picks, because he wants people who truly understand their characters. And Nathan Fillion understood who Guy Gardner was. And some people might be like, oh, Guy Gardner's probably like really easy to like play and all that. And maybe, you know, he's a bit of a simpler Green Lantern to play, but at the same time, it was like Nathan Fillion just did a great job of portraying him. You know, like every scene, it just felt like, yeah, this is the guy that we've seen in comics for years. This is the guy we've seen in animated shows for years. Like this is Guy Gardner completely, from the middle finger Green Lantern power to appointing himself leader of the Justice Gang, the cocky arrogance that is also kind of shrouded in insecurity in a way, you know, like that is Guy Gardner right there. Like, I found it hilarious how much my dad busted out laughing during that scene where they go to save the people of Jampur, and at the minute those middle fingers come up, my dad just busts out laughing, and is like, that's Guy Gardner right there. Like, that's the part I can't state enough, that's the part I enjoy the most, is that it really feels like there's an understanding of these characters. You know, again, it's no shame to anybody that wants to try and put their own spin on things and wants to try something new, but it'll always be special when you see people who truly understand the character that they're playing, that they're meant to represent. You know, it's why so many different actors feel synonymous with certain roles, because it just felt like they understood, you know. Like, I think that's why, especially like when Chadwick Boseman passed, like, it felt really difficult for people to even like think about who else could play Black Panther, because it felt like he was one of those guys that truly got it, you know. Like, I think throughout different superhero movies, there's just people that get it in some way or form, you know, like, and that's what makes, again, I feel like I keep repeating myself, but like, that's the most exciting part about this new universe, is thinking about the people Gunn is going to pick, and just like thinking like, it's weird. It's like an excitement, but also a bit of like not necessarily worry, but you're like, oh man, like that sort of like, oh man, I don't know what's the word to describe it, but it's like you're excited for the portrayal, but also just a tiny bit scared, because you're like, I want this to work out so well, you know, and I don't want this to be one of those times where someone doesn't get this character, you know, especially because there's so many. Like, the thing is, when it comes to superheroes, and when especially it comes to the DC, because of how grand, I mean, the Marvel's universe is also grand, but like, it feels like DC's is huge because there are so many characters that are people's favorites, and you almost see no one have an issue with, because that's how grand their universe is. That's how much attention to detail is put into a lot of these characters, even if they make minimal appearances, you know. Like, Creature Commando came out, and people are super excited because in Creatures Commando, I think it's was it one of the news segments that it shows, which one was it? Hold on, sorry. Again, this is more podcast style. I think it's the question, like, his city is mentioned in like a news segment. Like, you see the city that he's from, or I forget if it's like the I forget. There's it's tough to remember because it's been so long since I watched it, but there's an allusion to the question, and it just kind of makes you excited. Like, there's people like, yeah, that's one of their favorite characters, you know. Where is it? Hub City, birthplace of Vic Sage. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's mentioned, so it's like the question is going to be in this universe. Like, there's a ton of characters that are going to be in this universe. The Hall of Justice is an actual thing, and in there you see allusions to older characters like Jay Garrick's Flash, you know. So it's like there's so many different characters that so many people are looking forward to, that, like, again, it's that sort of like anxious excitement of like, I want this to get done right, you know. And again, it's too early to say because it's only one movie, but it's like, after this movie, you're like, well, how, I'll never forget how excited I was just when the cast alone was announced, and I was like, visually, this is all just like perfect, you know. Like, when I saw that cast, I was like I wasn't even like, I don't think I questioned any of the cast that was announced when it was announced. Like, I was like, this is perfect in a way, you know. Like, I was like, this is going to work out. And that's, I get it. Like, there are more people that are more what's the way I want, like, more well versed, because I'm just gonna be honest, the reason you don't see a whole lot of like reviews from the entertainment side is because I just don't be watching stuff, you know. Like, people will say actor names to me, and it's like, I couldn't even tell you like 2 movies they've been in, because it's like, I don't watch a lot of stuff. It's weird. I'm trying to do more. Like, recently I've been watching The Bear. I know, super late to that, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to get myself to watch more stuff. But yeah, but even then, like, even without knowing much about like a lot of the cast, I was like, things just look perfect. And then the movie came out, and like, it was perfect, you know. Like, everyone's portrayal was just so good. And again, it just gives me excitement because I start thinking about different characters, you know. I start thinking about the next Wonder Woman, the next Flash, who really needs some redemption, you know. A lot of people want Grant Gustin to come back. It'll be interesting to see what James Gunn does, because people don't know. We don't know yet if they're gonna do, you know, Barry or Wally yet. Like, we're still trying to figure out. A lot of people want Wally, so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there. But it's like, I just keep thinking about things like that. Like, and then especially characters that we haven't seen in a while, you know, like, at least on the big screens, like, you know, Green Arrow, Black Canary. Obviously we had the Arrow show, but, you know, like, thinking of characters like that. Lanterns is the next series coming out next year. I'm super excited for that. Some proper Lantern representation. I'm super excited for Aaron Pierre to be John Stewart. And I'm super excited to see all 3 Green Lanterns in the show, because they did say, I believe Guy Gardner's also going to be in there. Start thinking about characters like Shazam, who will hopefully get, you know, I don't know. I didn't really like Zachary Levi. I always agree with my dad's approach that, like, he can still be somewhat like childish in Shazam form, but he should also be more like mature in a way to really show that difference. But man, it's like, and then I the biggest one to me is like Batman, like proper Batman representation, because for the past couple of Batmans, you know, it's really felt like they either nail one or the other in a way, or like they do all right as both, but like I don't know what's the way to put it, but like, you know, some like you look at all the different people that have played Batman. Some of them are better Bruce Waynes than Batman. Some of them are better Batmans than Bruce Waynes. Some of them are kind of even, you know, and like I'm just excited to see, you know, like who Gunn ends up picking as Batman. I don't think Matt Reeves and him are gonna actually find a way to work Robert Pattinson into being the DC's Batman. I truly think they're gonna do two different Batmans, as confusing to some people as it may be. But I'm just excited, you know, because just like with Superman and the things he displayed in this movie, I'm excited to see a Batman that also displays those things, you know, because again, Batman is a character that truly hasn't been like well represented in ways, or not well. It's not that he hasn't been well represented. It's just the people that do Batman, whether it's the directors, the writers, they kind of forget. Again, Batman at his core, they nail a lot of things about Bruce Wayne and Batman, but they also forget some of the key things. You know, I know it's corny to bring up because it's always brought up, but like it's brought up for a reason. People always bring up those different clips from the animated series because they just truly represent who Batman is at his core. Batman and Bruce Wayne is the type of guy to pay for Harvey Dent's surgery because he cares about Harvey and truly believes that he can be helped, you know? It's the same thing with Harley Quinn. It's the same thing with really all his rogues gallery, you know. As evil as they may be, he still believes that they can be helped, and that's the thing. It's like he doesn't think they need to be healed or, you know, like I don't know what's the way to put it, but it's like he sees through their inherent flaws because he knows like there's a cause for it, you know. He's trying to get down to the root solution, you know, like, and like that's Batman, you know. Like, yeah, Arkham is kind of meant to just hold them, but like in his eyes he truly wants to figure out a way to like rehabilitate them, heal them, and get them back to being like proper members of society, you know. Like he truly cares for his rogues gallery, and it's the same thing with a lot of the heroes, like the Flash, who cares about his rogues gallery, Superman, who cares. I mean, in this movie, Superman literally tells Lex Luthor that he hopes one day he can see the good in him, you know, like to see that all the stuff that he uses for bad, that one day hopefully he can see just how much that can be used for good, you know. After everything Lex did in this movie, he still sees the good in him, you know. And like people call it unrealistic, people hate, you know, and say like, oh, in real life this and that, but it's like that's the point of superheroes, you know. They're different. They are supposed to, like, I don't, how is it that proper empathy and care and hope is seen as unrealistic, you know? Like, where are we in society that we can't envision ourselves seeing the best in people and just trying our best to be kind to one another and helping one another become our best selves? How is it that when superheroes display that, it's seen as unrealistic, you know? How is it seen as unrealistic that Superman, given the powers of the god, would choose to use those godlike powers to be good, you know? Like, how is it so unrealistic to view that, you know? How little hope do we have, you know? And so that's why it's like I look at characters like Batman and the Flash and Wonder Woman and Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter. You know, it's like I look at all these characters, Shazam, Red Tornado, even Firestorm, like Blue Beetle, like all these characters I'm just excited for and hoping that they nail those characters. You know, like I'll be the first to say I enjoyed Blue Beetle. I really liked it, and I really thought, you know, that was a really good portrayal of Jaime Reyes. You know, so it's like there's so much hope in my eyes for this universe. You know, obviously we got to give it time for more projects to come out, for more movies to come out. I believe they want to do 2 movies. I believe they said 2 movies, 2 shows, and an animated release each year. So 5 in total, which isn't that crazy. You know, like they can do a movie at the start of the year, a movie at the end of the year, an animated release, whether it's a show or movie in the middle, and then space out the TV shows in between that. Like, that's not too crazy of a vision, you know? And that way, it's a proper plan that effectively gets these characters introduced and all that, you know? And hey, that's the other great thing about this universe. We are just thrown into it, you know? We don't see no origin story for Superman. We're just getting thrown right into it. If things go the way James Gunn had originally planned them, the Batman we see is going to have an established Bat family and be years, like probably a decade into his career as Batman, you know? Like the movie's pacing definitely felt like that, you know? Like someone really described, like, yeah, this really felt like opening a comic and just being thrown right into the universe, because the pacing was just crazy, you know? But the crazy thing I found was, like, even despite all these heroes being introduced, like Mr. Terrific, like Hawkgirl, like Guy Gardner, like Lex Luthor, Ultraman, the Engineer, like, despite just being thrown into this universe, you effectively got to learn about them and their history, you know? And the other thing I liked is also showing the differences between the heroes, you know? Like, Guy Gardner and Mr. Terrific can both be seen as cocky characters, but because of their portrayals, it's completely 2 different things. Again, like I said, Guy Gardner's this cocky, arrogant guy that's really shrouded by a sense of insecurity, whereas Mr. Terrific, shout out Mr. Terrific, shout out Eddie getting his redemption from X-Men. Bit of a cocky character, but it's backed up by him being one of the smartest people in the world, you know? And it's like, it's one of those, it's that cocky nature that is, in a sense, like, you can't even call him like cocky and arrogant, and because it's more of a sense of pride with him, because he knows his abilities, he knows what he's capable of, and so he walks with that swagger of, like, I'm one of the smartest people, I know what I can handle and all that, you know? That scene at the Luthor Court base on the beach was hilarious, you know? That was real fun. And then, you know, Hawkgirl, she ain't afraid to kill, you know? Like, especially a world leader at that. She's like, I'm not Superman, you know? Like, Superman won't kill, but that doesn't mean I won't, you know? And, like, it's those distinct differences that made the characters stand out, and why, again, despite a bunch of characters in the movie, like, each one felt properly represented, felt like they actually got a good enough time. Hey, Metamorpho, we barely got much of, and his story, all we just ended up finding out was he has a son. The guy shows out and shows a lot of development in his short time, you know? So, there's just so much more to, like, talk about, but it's like, I don't know, man, that's just what I'm excited for, is the different characters we're gonna see, the different movies we're gonna see, because as James Gunn said, it's not gonna be one style. We're getting a Clayface horror movie next year, rated R horror movie that's gonna be a lot of body horror more than likely, and I have no doubt it's also going to tell, again, it's why it makes me excited for Batman, because I have no doubt in my mind, despite it being a rated R horror-esque movie about Clayface, we're still going to essentially probably see a bit of it from the way Batman would view Clayface, and that is sympathetically feeling for a guy whose life was completely changed through some type of accident to turn him into this monster, and yet sympathize with him and realize that like this is probably going to be a man that's angry and frustrated that this is how his life turned out, like that this singular thing had to happen to him, and just trying to find a way to cope with that, you know, because no duh, Clayface would be angry, you know, like there's no doubt in my mind, if anyone went through what Clayface had gone through, like you would be angry, you would be resentful that like out of all the things in life this had to happen to you, you know, and yet Batman is more than likely gonna, like, we're gonna see some sympathetic notes that would be exactly how Batman looks at his rogues guy, like looking at them, and despite seeing their flaws, being able to look deeper within them and see like, yeah, he's going about things the wrong way, but who wouldn't if you were turned into this monster, you know? Like, I'm super excited for that, and again, it shows that like he's understanding. Like, I'm sorry, but it just makes me excited to think about like the different things we're gonna see, that like you don't know what to expect, you know? Like, you have this Superman movie and then a rated R Clayface movie. You have the Lantern series that's gonna be a bit like buddy cop style. It's like, it just makes me super excited to have these distinctions, and again, it just goes to show how much they're starting to really understand these characters, you know? Like, it makes me excited for the potential Teen Titans movie that like it hopefully encapsulates that, you know? Like, they're gonna do different styles, and it's going to properly show when they do these different styles of movies that they're understanding each character, you know? Rated R horror Clayface movie makes me excited for what they could eventually do with Swamp Thing in the future, you know? It makes me excited for, you know, we brought up like characters like the Question and the Spectre, you know, like it makes me interested in the type of movie directions they can go with characters like that, you know? Like, it's not just gonna be action superhero movie, and that makes me so excited because, yeah, sorry, not every character is meant to be this long action film, you know? Like, some of these characters are going to be best represented by different styles, and that's why I kind of liked Robert Pattinson's Batman, because since it's supposed to be more similar to the Arkham games, while it was action, a majority of it was detective style, you know, him going into places and analyzing and trying to make all these different connections, you know? Like, that felt like a proper representation of that side of Batman, that like detective Batman, you know? Like, he's super smart and can piece together things with just such little evidence, you know? But that's most of what I had to say. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's really much more I have to say. Just the twist of Jor-El's message was crazy. That was pretty, like, everyone was expecting it to be like edited or something, but no, that was just crazy to see. Again, overall enjoyed the cast, enjoyed a lot of like the dialogue. Like, the dialogue felt like real conversations, you know? The comedy was pretty good at times. Like, it felt well properly placed. It didn't really feel like too much was like out of nowhere in ways. And I don't know, I don't really know much more to say other than just I'm super excited for this new DCU. This was a really great movie. I'm glad it's doing well. I'm glad it's getting such well reception from audiences. It makes me just super excited because it's funny. I think back to like my childhood, and because of, you know, the dad that I grew up with, my brother and I will both tell you, you know, it's like my mom and dad were just like, I don't know what's the other way to describe it, and just nerds in a way, you know, like the two of them loved playing video games together, you know, like my dad would always tell the story of like he'd come home from work to my mom playing and he'd be like, all right, my turn, you know. My dad, because he knew he was having two boys, would collect all these different figures. My dad has buckets and cases of comics, you know. He collected all these toys. He collected all these Marvel toys, all for my brother to look at him and go, I want Batman. After he had spent all that money in collecting, my brother looks at him and goes, I want Batman. And not only do I want Batman, I want the same Batman, but just in a different color. But that's the stuff we grew up. But like, I don't know if it's weird to say, because like, it's been a pretty good mix. Like he has Marvel, he has DC. We grew up with games like Ultimate Alliance, the X-Men games, you know. But we also grew up with DC stuff. We grew up with, you know, like the different DC games, like, you know, Injustice, DC Universe Online, you know. Again, DC hasn't been too well represented in games. You have the Arkham games, but you think of like other characters, not really much. But like, I guess what I'm trying to get is that like, despite growing up with probably like a lot more Marvel, especially with like the X-Men. My dad's a big fan of the X-Men. A lot of his favorite characters in Marvel come from the X-Men, you know, and the X-Men stories. He probably has more comics of that than maybe some of the others. We had VHS of the X-Men animated series, you know, so it's like, I think of that. I think of like me growing up during like the peak of the MCU and all that. And, you know, Marvel kind of being more well represented in like the movie thing. And yet I think back to, you know, my high school teacher and good friend who also kind of felt like he was more of a DC fan. And like, I think about it, I'm just like, as much as, you know, all that Marvel influence, I still think like at the end of the day, a lot of my favorite like comic stories, a lot of my favorite animated shows and characters come from the DC, you know. And like a lot of my favorite, like as an artist, a lot of my favorite like character designs come from the DC. And I mean, it's a cheat code because, as my dad will tell you, they had Alex Ross, especially during the Kingdom Come series. Like, it's kind of a cheat code. I mean, now Alex Ross does a lot of Marvel art as well. I mean, he's done for both, but it's like, I don't know, like I think about that, I'm like, man, it's weird. I think I can also relate to my high school teacher and good friend that, you know, I do a wrestling podcast with. They're like, yeah, maybe I am a bit more of a fan of DC, and that's why I was so excited for this new DC and why I just enjoyed this movie, because it feels like characters that I've loved and watched as a kid, especially from their animated series. It's like, I'm excited to see them hopefully get their proper representation on the big screen, you know. And that's not to say that other people didn't give proper representations, you know, like Henry Cavill, like Christopher Reeve, like Christian Bale, Michael Keaton, you know, like all those different people that have come before this DCU. Like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, it's just gonna wipe those out the water, but it's like, in terms of actually being a part of a grand universe, you know, because Bale, Keaton, Reeve, Cavill was technically part of a bigger universe, but like he didn't get really the proper representation to be. I mean, one movie, you know, it's like this feels like, I guess it's just the fact of being excited that just like when reading a comic, you're going to see them interact with the different characters of their universe, and you don't need some grand movie to explain them. Like, they'll just pop in, you know, like, yeah, they'll have their own solo endeavors, but like, we no longer need something to explain, like, who is this character that's popping in. It's like, no, they're just already established, you know. Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, and Mr. Terrific can just pop in because they're already established in this universe. They're already known, you know. This is the type of universe where Peacemaker can just show up and be interviewed on a late night TV show about Superman, and it just makes sense because that's the universe, you know. Like, that's a true representation of the comic world, you know. is that these characters can just come in, and sure, you'll be like at first, who is this person? Like, why are they coming out of nowhere? What's their story? But by the end of it, you're like, you know what? I learned about them through the story. I didn't need to be directly told about them. I just got to learn about them through this movie. You know, like, we don't know what Mr. Terrific's backstory is, but we got to learn a whole lot about him as a person through this movie, you know? Like, especially the fact that, like, he goes to help Lois find Clark, and he tries to at first be like, oh, you know, I care about learning this technology and shutting it down so that it doesn't come into a big problem. And yeah, that's still his overall motive, but towards the end of it, it's like, you realize it's like, he cares about Clark. He cares about Superman, you know? He cares about... And he, like, despite that original message, he comes to learn Superman's true character to the point where, like, he'll fight alongside him, you know, and work together with him and all that. And, like, that's just what I enjoy, and that's what I like, is that, like, rambling aside, this universe is just showing a lot of positives, you know? And it's showing a lot of positive, it's showing a lot of understanding, and that's why it makes me so hopeful after just one movie, because it's like, it gives me hope that they're going to nail this, that they're going to understand these people, these characters, and find the proper people to represent them, you know? Like, I see all these, and that's the thing that sucks for me, because I don't watch a lot of stuff. It's like, I just look at a lot of these fan castings, and I'm like, I wish I knew more so I could properly think to myself, like, do I think this person is a good representation of this character, you know? Because I know the characters from the comics, but it's like, I don't know much about actors and actresses to be like, yeah, I would pick this person to be this person, you know? Like, I want to get better at that, but again, all the yapping aside, all the rambling aside, I just truly enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the time I got to share with my family, enjoying it, you know, and it just makes me super excited again. Like, I can't state it enough. I've said it probably a million times in this video, but I'm just excited and hopeful, you know? Like, this was such a good movie, such a great portrayal of Superman that truly understood his fundamentals, you know? And I'm just super excited, man. Like, I just can't say it enough. I'm ready for the new DCU. I'm ready to see where Gunn takes this thing, what direction he goes with certain characters, and the big thing is, where's it all heading? Because obviously with a big universe like this, there's going to be a final, you know, not to steal from Marvel, but there's going to be an end game to all of this, and what's it going to be, you know? That's another thing. Again, sorry, I know I was making it seem like I was going to come to the end, but like, that's another thing. It really seems like Gunn wants to utilize all these different heroes' rogue gallery, you know? So it makes me excited that, like, after Luthor, we're probably not, like, going to get Zod until maybe, like, later. So, like, we might work with a couple different, you know, super villains from Superman's gallery. Seeing as the fact we're getting a solo Clayface movie, it makes me excited for Gunn utilizing more of Batman's rogue gallery. All the people talking about grounded Batman. Screw it, man. Give me a movie where Batman fights Clayface, Killer Croc, Bane, Solomon Grundy, just all these freaks of nature that definitely aren't part of the grounded side of Batman. Just throw me those four guys in a Batman movie to really just, you know, stick it to those people. Like, again, it's not that grounded Batman isn't a bad thing, but it's like, dog, we're talking superheroes here, and Batman has always had a crazy rogues gallery that needs proper representation on this big screen, you know? Like, that's why people like the Arkham game so much, because we got to see all those different rogues gallery, even if it was just very short, you know? That's why, I don't know, man. I'm just excited, man. Like, there's so many options to go with, and I don't really know how to properly end this video, but man, very good movie. So much excitement and hope, and it just, I don't know, man. I don't know where more to say, except I'm just excited, and I hope I can come to you in the future with even more different types of media-esque videos, more of the proper, like, essay style, you know, because there's a lot of different things I've like had notes about like wanting to talk about, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do something on the Bear. Maybe I'll do something on other movies or TV shows I've seen in the past. We'll see though. I hope I can also come back to you guys pretty soon with other content as well, whether it's music or wrestling related. Want to get back to it, man. I'm tired of letting life just wear me down. I want to get back to doing what I enjoy the most, and so I hope to do that soon. I will say, especially because it's been a while since I've done a Philly talk, I will say to the fans of the MLB and the Phillies, next Thursday, July 31st, MLB trade deadline. We did it last year. I made sure to let my job this year know ahead of time. I cannot work that day. We're doing it again. Live reactions. Just going to be sitting there waiting and waiting for the big old trades. And I can't wait for it. But until then, thank you all for this one. Superman was amazing. And I'm excited and hopeful for the future.